Hey, this is the part 2 to a previous video, link in the description.
Oh, and speaking of DLC, about a year after the game launched, this game got the DLC, which included Encore mode, which I'll talk about in just a moment, as well as two new characters, being Ray the Flying Squirrel and Mighty the Armadillo, who are some random ass characters from the past who no one has really remembered. They were from fucking Knuckles Chaotix. I mean, I guess it's cool if they get the attention and get memorability. I'd probably not know they exist at this point if it wasn't for Mania. I at least not remember. Maybe I've heard about them years ago, but I've forgotten by now. But regardless of all that, it's still a case that they were just inserted in, and there's a reason they were inserted in, which we'll get into in a minute. But playing them on their own, they do feel kind of janky because these levels weren't designed with them in mind. So it's like there's nowhere I can really use Ray's gliding ability, which is better than Knuckles' gliding ability, in that he can basically glide indefinitely without losing height because it's basically the Super Mario World cape. And also, but also it's not like Knuckles because he can't climb up walls or whatever. Sorry, I'm not worried about my mouth getting too salivated and the audio sounding like crap. Sorry. But anyway, it's like, so yeah, this could be different. And Mighty, it's like, he can roll off spikes. That's the unique thing. And also, admittedly, there are some things that, at least from my experience, seem mighty unique because he can slam into the ground, which can break through barriers on the ground, which in the base game, Sonic can do it with the drop dash, but I play with 3 and K Sonic controls because it feels weird. To me, it feels weird if Sonic can't do that little like flashy thing in midair while jumping. It bothers my little autistic ass. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, there's actually some things uniquely designed for Mighty, but in the general basic experience, yeah, not really. However, this is kind of defensible because the reason these two characters were added was because of Encore mode, which that's a thing. Basically, instead, it's a harder version of the game. It's a harder remixed version of the game with slightly edited levels and a totally unique version of Mirage Saloon Zone Act 1 that kind of reconciles both Knuckles' version of it and everyone else's version of it. But yeah, and the way this works is instead of having lives, you have characters. Whenever a character dies, they get replaced with another character, and they're following each other like Sonic and Tails, and you can swap between them, as well as their boxes that let you switch between them, and this wouldn't work very well with only 3 characters, but it does with, with 5 characters, especially considering that you can get as many of them as you want as long with the checkpoint minigame in Encore mode. And really, we only get free save files, which is kind of lame, but like, it's ultimately, it works, but here's my problem with the DLC comes in. It was falsely advertised, in my opinion. They advertised it as 2 new characters plus a whole 12 new stages, right? So I open up Encore mode. I get to play the opening section of of Angel Island until the bit where in the original game the little robot comes and blows up the whole island, or it doesn't blow up the whole island, but like it sets the zone confusingly called Angel Island zone on fire. And then, yeah, all that happens, except this time you break Mighty and Ray out of a little Dr. Eggman, like, robotification machine, whatever the fuck these are called, except it's weird because there's glass, and then you pick one, and the other one turns out to be the heavy magician, and it takes the Phantom Ruby, and then we get a tutorial with each of their gameplay mechanics, and then after that, we finally, we get teleported away. The Phantom Ruby teleports us away again, and then we're in Green Hill Zone, or should I say Gravy Hill Zone, because all the other levels are just fucking retextured versions of existing stages, not new stages like they advertised it. Which this made me really sad at the time because I was disappointed. Like, but if it was just like remixed versions of the stages with new mechanics. Yeah, that would have been cool if that's what I was expecting, but instead it was a massive fucking disappointment. So yeah, this also came out alongside, and well, actually no. So Sonic at the start of the Encore mode, I'll know till gets teleported back from Sonic Forces, which again I'll talk about in a moment. Finally getting around to the other time when I mentioned Sonic Forces, by the way. So yeah, he gets teleported out of that portal, coming back from that, and the Phantom Ruby's gone again. But yeah, but also this game came out with this DLC came out with an update, okay? And so now I'm moving on to the next section because of the update, so yeah. Okay, so now I'm talking about the way this game is dragged down by Sonic Forces. Yay! More extreme negativity. Hoo-hoo. More corporate shit. Well, this is the most anti-corporate bit this is gonna get, but regardless, I can start this off in a whole bunch of ways, but Look, this game probably should have been delayed till 2018. Why is that I say? Well, for the first year of the game's release, Starlight Speedway, the boss fight at the end of it was a placeholder which is now inaccessible. No, you can't even access it through a menu like you can with the classic Sonic controls or with /3 and Knuckles slash and Knuckles mode slash debug mode slash time limit off mode. Those are all accessed through a menu. You can't get this boss fight back from a menu. It's just inaccessible in nowadays unless you download the game, then don't download updates, or if you pirate the game or something, or if you mod it. So yeah, I obviously don't have footage of that. In addition, most of the zones did not have zone transitions until this update a year in came out alongside Encore mode and a physical release of the game. You know, the game in a fair few areas was pretty unfinished at launch. Maybe it didn't need to be delayed in 2018, assuming that they started work on Encore mode immediately after the game finished and released all of this at the same time, then maybe they could have delayed it a month or two and then released the game and then released Encore mode. But it does seem like the reason it was unfinished was probably that it had a deadline, a hard deadline, so it could coincide with Sonic's Forces, because classic Sonic exists in Sonic Forces in spite of the fact there's really no reason for it. This is not a Sonic Generation sequel. Classic Sonic in modern Sonic's already been done. It just feels like they just added in Classic Sonic because Generations was a popular game that was held in good favor at the time and even now. Plus, it's also like another complaint I have is that the Phantom Ruby is inconsistent between the two. In that one, it seems to be more like illusions, whereas this one, it seems to be more like inter-universal teleportation. Also, they retconned the thing about it being time travel from Generations. Now it's alternate universes, which, hey, at least we can pretend that at least fans of classic Sonic like me can pretend that modern Sonic doesn't exist now because it's a different universe or whatever. But honestly, not all of modern Sonic seems so bad. I don't know. Look, I like classic Sonic. Okay. Besides the point, but seriously, in this game, if you get all the Chaos Emeralds in this game, you get the bad ending. The bad ending meaning that Sonic ends up instead of having a happy ending where Eggman's stopped and everything's tied up in a neat bow, instead he gets teleported into a far worse Sonic game. Like, look, Sonic Forces, I've never played it, admittedly, but it got panned when it came out. Looking at it, and looking at reviews of it, and looking at people analyzing it, I'd say that it had some good ideas, but it was ultimately a mess, much like the Soviet Union, which it was aesthetically inspired by. So, yeah, but between the ways that the Sonic Forces tie-ins were forcibly shoved into the game, which maybe by adding the Phantom Ruby that made the game more narratively coherent, I don't know, and the fact that the game was pretty obviously rushed in areas. Yeah, Sonic Forces dragged this down a bit, and yeah, that sucks. So now on to my final point. Ooh, just gotta drag out that footage further. So see you in 5 minutes my time, 0 seconds your time. So yeah, although going off of this video alone, it may sound like I hate the game, but don't be mistaken, I like this game quite a lot. It's a game I enjoyed quite a lot. It's quite hyped for it. I had quite a lot of fun with it. It's just that this video I spent all my time focusing on the negative aspects because this game's like, what's it? I forgot. I had a really good word for a good thing and I suddenly lost it right before fucking saying it, or even as I was saying it. Fucking hell. But this game's pros? No, that's not the right word. This game's strengths have been sung from the rooftops for years at this point, or mainly back when it came out in 2017, and to a lesser extent 2018 when Encore mode came out. So like, it's a really good game, you know. Well, yes, I think there's criticisms to be made in how reliant it was on nostalgia. On the other hand, the amount of care and attention to detail put into all nostalgia stuff in this, it's like, I think it's you can call the nostalgia stuff the nostalgic nature of this artful, and the way it's like pays tribute to the classic Sonic games.
Not to mention that when it comes to this game, the fan service is kind of the whole point of why it exists, artistically speaking.
So it's like thing, like I like 2D Sonic, it's good. The level design in this was good. It had some good level mechanics. It was a good game, but like, you know, it has major problems in it, and it's both instilled by its nature as a nostalgia-based game, which is not necessarily a bad thing overall, and like mainly instilled by that, but also by the fact also by the way it was tied into but also by the way it was tied into Sonic Forces to a lesser extent. But like, it's a game I really like, but has major features dragging it down. I mean, maybe these won't be as bad once it's more its own thing. I suppose the only 2D Sonic we've gotten in 20 plus years when Sonic Superstars comes out later this year, because looking at the trailer for that, that looks like it will not be Sonic 4 again. That looks like it's going to be like I'm putting my money down and betting that it's gonna be like it's gonna have the mechanics of based on that I assume the design of classic 2D Sonic, but then it's gonna have the graphics of Sonic 4, which frankly graphical advancements and like different art styles and stuff. Fine, I mean this isn't really an art style in the same way. I mean to whatever extent you can call classic. I mean, classic graphics, that's like 16-bit graphics, that's like an active stylistic choice, or 42-bit graphics in this game's case. That's like a stylistic choice, whereas CGI like that isn't. And like looking at Super Mario Wonder, like that game has an art style to it, or at least a little bit of an art style. Whereas this is just like, yeah, it's Sonic, I guess. But yeah, maybe with that game having unique stages, depending on how unique and well handled they are, if there are anything like unique stages in this game, like Mirage Saloon and Studiopolis, then yeah, that'll probably be a good time. You know, I'm glad that's finally happening. So, yeah, that's my conclusion to this video. Enjoy. Hit like if you want to. If you've watched this much of this video, let alone the video that came before it, both of the videos. I'm assuming you enjoyed it, so please tell YouTube so that they show it to more people, please. And if you also watched this long, you presumably enjoyed it, so if you want to see more, hit subscribe. So, yeah. Peace.
So, to sum this whole video up, essentially Sonic Mania has a little bit of a problem in my opinion, where it doesn't have much of a distinct identity because it's almost entirely content from older games, remade slash reimagined and strung together, and just restrung together. And because it's all stuff from older games strung together, that means it doesn't have much internal cohesion either. Hell, it doesn't even do some of the things the older games did as well as they did, like with the stuff I was talking about with the Knuckles sections not being as good as in Sonic 3 and K. But then again, is the whole point of this game artistically not to be an homage to older games? So yeah, if you liked that, hit like so that YouTube promotes my video, but clearly you did think it was a good video based on the fact you've been watching it for like, what, 13 minutes? And also, if you want to see more, subscribe. That'd be poggers. I want to hit 100 by the end of the year. So yeah, now we're on the outro. This video was very non-time intensive to produce because I'd already recorded the audio before the video was broken up, so I just had to go through and edit it. It took 10 days to come out because I procrastinated, but yeah, I spent this week vibing with family because we're all home, so we can all vibe this week. So yeah, that was pretty poggers. Now, so that's like pog. Yeah. iMovie is a shitty editing software that I hate using. Yeah, Spamton video. Yeah, that is behind where I want it to be right now, and I'm just in a depressing downward spiral frustration where because it's behind where I want it to be. I'm just negatively motivated to keep going, which means I just don't get any shit done day in, day out. Yeah, it's frustrating. I was hoping to get the Spamson video out by the end of August or September. I don't know about that now. Especially, and if it's not out by then, you know, prelims, the second round of prelims will be coming in. So, yeah. So that's how that's going. That's how this is going. And so yeah, I don't have anything else to say, and I don't want to waste your time or my time. So bye bye.